Alright guys, I've got a really dull hand planer blade here, and a bunch of different chisels I got for free or at garage sales and thrift shops. What I've seen a lot of people do, especially Wrangler Star, I've been watching his videos a lot, as well as Paul Sellers, they make a glass pane sanding jig. And I found this piece of glass at a craft store for a couple bucks. And what I'm going to do is take my router and put in one of these straight bits and route out the outside profile for this piece of glass. That way it'll be recessed into the piece of wood, and whenever I go to use this jig, all I have to do is clamp this piece to the table, this piece of wood, and I'll have a lift up tab here conveniently to lift the piece out when I'm changing grits. I'll just use some spray glue to spray onto the surface and attach my different grits of sandpaper, and then whenever I sand at that particular angle, I'll use Windex to carry away the chips. And then, as I said, when I change grits, I just lift up this pane and keep using it. So hopefully this is thick enough piece of glass here. And I've seen other guys use thicker glass, but the reason why we use glass is because we know that it's perfectly flat, and so that whenever we run our sharp hardened end to sand it and bring back our blade tip, we know that we're sanding against something that's perfectly flat. If you use a piece of wood, you're going to have high points and low points in there, and you're going to thus get a ridge from that translating onto the sandpaper and onto your edge. So this is the beginning, and take a look at how I design this and do this. Thanks for watching. Something I've seen a lot of guys do with precision woodworking, instead of following a pencil point, which has a thickness of, a 32nd or at least, maybe a 16th, depending on how you sharpen it, is to put a knife wall. And the knife wall is a lot more accurate, and the most beneficial part, from my understanding, is you won't get tear out, especially when you're chiseling. So my idea here, when I sink this router bit into here, I know this piece of crappy plywood here is going to tear out along my edge here. So I'm going to chase this pencil line with the knife, and then my router will follow that, and hopefully we won't get as much tear out. Guys, here's what we're left with. I left it just a tiny bit proud of the wood, so I wouldn't cut into the wood, while doing this. I put electrical tape around the edges just because it was rough cut glass, and I don't have a cutter to recut it. But even then, that would be sharp, so this will save my fingers. The routing job went pretty well with that bit I had, but I couldn't figure out how to put a straight edge on it so I could follow it. So this is all just freehand, so it's not the best, but it doesn't matter for this application. This is just a quick jig. I'm glad this little finger hole was here, because it would be a pain trying to pop this out every time. You might crack the glass with a screwdriver trying to pry it. But next step will be to get some spray glue and some new sandpaper, and I will run through the grits on my chisel and my planer blade. and let you know what happens and how it turns out. Thanks for watching.